Welcome aboard to podcast 27 in the series of the Voyage to back Yonder. We can exhaust ourselves trying to paddle across the ocean. Expectations and ideas form in our head of what is supposed to happen and when it is supposed to happen. So we can invest a lot of energy into trying to force those things to happen. When reality shows us a different plan, the disappointment and fear sets in, causing us to fight or flee from situations or people. And that long list of expectations and should, supposed to, is exhausting. And there's no end to it. There are things that are even contradictory on the list because we absorb expectations of other people who have different opinions and expectations on what life is supposed to be like. One friend, you might say, we should wait for that other person to contact us so we don't appear desperate. Where another friend might say, we should feel free to contact the other person because it makes that other person feel wanted. And doesn't everyone like to be pursued? And I'm sure there are many more options and expectations others probably have around what we should do in that situation. But you see how they can be contradictory. Life can feel like a long list of things that must be done. Too many to fit into our lives, really. I'm sure most of us have told ourselves at least once in our lives that there aren't enough hours in the day. We begin to rush around, trying to get everything done that we think we should, and our ship goes off course, steering into the hurricane. High winds and huge waves seem to threaten our peaceful journey, and we might fear that our lives will end, our ships will sink, and will be forgotten. But then we reach the eye of the hurricane. Something tends to happen when life becomes too much to handle. We give up. We stop paddling with our arms, trying to force the ship through the storm. And we just glide with what is for a moment because we're just too tired to try. The fear calms when we give up on the expectations of how things should be. We realize that we'll either make it through this moment or we won't. And in either case, we will be fine. We'll either get through it and live to encounter new adventures that might include more storms, or we might leave this earthly plane to continue our adventure in a place of unconditional love. Do you see that in either case, we would be fine? And if you're answering no to that question, or even if you're answering yes to that question, we most likely are fearing death, the unknown. We might have a thought in our head that we have faith that what we've been told about the afterlife is true, but maybe we aren't certain. Maybe we aren't believing it in our heart yet. If we trust the unconditional love of our Creator, then we can trust the timing of our passing. And that regardless of whatever the other side holds, we'll be in the loving embrace and protective arms of our Creator. We'll be surrounded by beings of unconditional love. And I don't expect you to take my word for it, because I tend not to believe something just because someone said it or wrote it in a book. Maybe I've watched too many movies, but it seems that any external individual or organization that is trying to tell someone how to believe is doing so to keep control over the people or out of fear for some reason. So even when it comes to religious texts, I read them with a grain of salt, knowing that man's ego has been involved in writing it down, even if they tell us that it's 100% inspired by their creator. I mean, wouldn't the ego say that? Maybe it could be 99% inspired. Who knows? I contemplated that question of who knows. I questioned it with a lot of fear of being rejected for questioning the authority. And then the answer came to me. Who knows? God knows. We say that a lot. Only God knows. So I thought, I'll go to that source to find out the truth. And that's what I encourage everyone to do. Take some deep breaths and put all of your beliefs and expectations aside for just a moment. I'm not asking you to give them up. I'm just saying, for a moment, put them slightly to the side. Put the book down and talk to the true author. Open your heart and open your mind to the unconditional love from the Creator of all things. See that mighty heart. Feel that love. Deepen the relationship you have with your Creator and really get to know their heart. When I do this, I find that the expectations I'm supposed to be drift away. The storm calms. I enter the eye of the hurricane and see that all these things I'm trying to accomplish and do in a rush are being done out of fear of being rejected, of being cast outside the tribe and deemed unlovable. What will people think? Is the question that seems to rattle our world. But if we replace what will people think with what would an unconditionally loving Creator think, that can change the whole perspective. We can realize that unconditional love is inside us. We can see that when we look outside of ourselves into the external world for the validation of our worthiness of love, we seem to always be hearing how we're somehow failing. And we're in fear. We're in the hurricane. But when we turn inward, we can find that unconditional love, and everything becomes calm. It's like being on the surface of the sea in a storm. The waves are crashing and the wind is blowing, lightning striking with loud thunder. But when we submerge into the sea and go into its depths, everything becomes still and quiet. Until next episode, take some deep breaths. Maybe try writing down a list of what you think you need in the future in order to be happy. After you write it all down, take some more deep breaths and take a look at each item. Maybe ask yourself, do I really need that in order to be happy? Is it possible for me to choose to be happy even if that person, thing, or situation are not happening or are in my life? Is it possible that you could be happy right this second, knowing that you already have everything you need in your life right now? We search for love and validation that we're lovable. And when we question that list of should, we can see that we are indeed worthy of love. And in fact, we have the unconditional love of the Creator of all things right here inside us. And maybe we're even made of that unconditional love. We need not put off living our lives trying to find the perfect one. We already have them right here, right now, inside us. When we can sit in that and believe it, then the hurricane in our lives subsides. The sun comes out, and on the calm waters of the sea of unconditional love, we raise our sails and let the winds take us where they will instead. Enjoy your voyage. I love you.